Hey guys, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. Today is Tuesday the 28th, I'm gonna say, of April. It must be the 28th because the OWLs ends on Thursday and that must make that the 30th. So today is Tuesday, it's the 28th, but I swear dates are becoming such an abstract concept for me and it's becoming harder and harder to keep track of them just because they don't really have any effect on my life at the moment, given the fact that I'm pretty much at home all the time and I don't have to go into work, and so why would I need to remember the dates? I'm definitely keeping track of what day of the week it is, but dates are just kind of becoming a little bit more abstract for me. But as I said, it is the end of the OWLs on Thursday. However, I think I'm going to bring my OWLs readathon journey to an end here just because although there are 2 days left, I just don't have any more books on my TBR that I can match up to prompts that I really want to or think I'll be able to read in the next 2 days. But I did manage to read quite a lot of books from my not from my original TBR. I managed to read quite a lot of books, but typically of me, I completely strayed away from my original TBR and I don't think I actually read any of the books on... No, I read one book from my original TBR, but I think that's it. So classic me, I just went completely off on a tangent, but I did manage to read quite a lot of books, so I am pleased with that. But yeah, it's just, I don't think I'm going to get any more finished before Thursday, so instead I'll just wrap up and tell you what I read for the OWLs now, because I'm very, very happy with what I did manage to read, and then just start my May reading, because I have quite a lot of books I want to read in May as well. So, starting off with what I did read for the OWLs, the first prompt was for Arithmancy, which was to read a book with heart in the title or on the cover, and so for that one I read Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, which I really, really enjoyed. It was my first ever graphic novel and it was so lovely. Then we had Ancient Ruins, which was to read a book that's outside of your favourite genre, so I read Educated by Tara Westover, which I think is my favourite book I read this month. It was so incredible. Picked this one up because it is a non-fiction. I do not usually read non-fiction, and this was the only book that I actually read that was on my original TBR as well, so I'm really, really glad that I did pick this one up because it was such a brilliant book. Next up we had to read a book that had beaks on the cover for Care of Magical Creatures, so I read The Silence of the Girls, because it's got some little birdies on it there, so there's beaks. I read this one as part of a buddy read with a few friends, with Emma, Carolyn, Lucy and Mary, and it was such a fun read, so I'm glad I read it along with them and I really did enjoy it. Then for Muggle Studies we had to read a book which focused on a Muggle, so basically a contemporary, so I picked up It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which was a really, really incredible book as well. This one was recommended to me by Em, who always gives brilliant recommendations, and this one was no exception because it was a really great book. I then managed to pick up the whole Hunger Games series and make each of the books match up to one of the OWLs prompts, which I was very pleased about. I actually read this for another separate video, which will be going up next week, I think, but the prompts I managed to make this work for was the Hunger Games I read first, and I read this one mostly at night time, so that one matched up to the astronomy prompt, which is to read a book when it's dark outside. I then read Catching Fire, which I've matched up to the Defense Against the Dark Arts prompt, which was to read a book that is set by the sea or coast, and because of where the Hunger Games takes place in this installment of the series, I feel like I can kind of make that work. And then finally we had Herbology, which was to read a book that starts with the letter M, so I read Mockingjay for that one. And that brings all of my books for the OWLs readathon to an end. I'm really pleased with the amount that I did manage to read. I honestly have no idea which career I'm going to end up with now because it completely strayed away from my original TBR, so I'll probably have to have a look later on and I'll let you know which career I can do with the books I managed to read. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to start off with my May reading now. So the first book I'm picking up for my May TBR is going to be Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I'm also reading as a buddy read with Mary, Lucy, Carolyn and Emma, so I'm really excited to read this one along with them, and I'll maybe start this one later on this evening or tomorrow. But another thing I've been doing a lot of with my spare time this week has been watching the BBC adaptation of Normal People, which is obviously based on the Sally Rooney book, and it is honestly incredible. I've only got 2 episodes left now and I'm loving it so, so much, so I'm probably going to watch the rest of them tonight and then maybe do some reading. So it is now Wednesday morning and I just finished up watching the final episode of Normal People, and honestly I don't really know where to begin with talking about my thoughts on this one because I just thought it was so incredibly well done, and actually I just can't believe how accurately they managed to bring that book to life, because obviously that is the point of a book to film or TV adaptation, but I feel like so often the film version of a book is such a different experience to reading the book, and that's absolutely fine. They can often do very different things, but I just feel like with Normal People the book was so incredible. It was literally like a work of art, and I just think it was so perfect, and I loved it so much that the fact that they were able to keep all of those same emotions, and they pretty much basically just took the experience I had of reading it and just put that into a visual format. And I just think it was so incredible how faithful they were to the book, and yet you did still get something of a different experience because you were actually seeing it rather than reading it. But even so, I just feel like the emotions and the thoughts that you had from reading the book and watching the TV series were so similar that I just think it was perfect, and they now are like perfect companions because you can have both the reading and the watching experience, and they are both so similar but so equally incredible in their own rights. I think part of the reason why it was so incredible as well was just the fact that they had cast the characters so perfectly. I think there were certain characters in particular, like the person they had to play Connell and his mum, and also the people that they had playing Marianne's family, who were just like literally spot on. But just in general, I think they cast everyone so perfectly that it just made it so much easier to feel like you were just literally watching like a visual portrayal of what had been written, and nothing had been changed and everything was just exactly as it should have been. And then the other thing that I just loved so much about this one was just literally the way it was filmed. Now, I am not like a technical film critic or anything, so I don't know too much about like all of the incredible work that goes into it, but I do know that it just came across so beautifully. And if anyone has seen the final season of Skins, where they did like Skins Pure, Fire, and I can't remember what they did for Cook's one actually, but basically they did 3 episodes, one for Cassie, Effie and Cook, and they basically did like their future story about what had happened since their seasons of Skins finished. And Cassie's one was called Skins Pure, and that one was so beautifully filmed. Like, it had a very muted and pastel-y vibe in terms of like how the like film visually looked, and then they really conveyed a sense of like stillness and melancholy and just like a sort of muted tone, which really sort of added to what you were listening to the characters talking about, because you had that sort of visual aid of seeing that sort of, it almost is like the way that it is filmed and the sort of colours that come across on screen are like an aid to the emotions that you're supposed to be feeling. And I feel like that is something that they did really well in Normal People. They had a very like sort of muted palette with very like pastel-y vibes, and it just felt incredible, and I feel like it really conveyed those emotions. Another film I think that does that quite well is Submarine as well, because I think that sort of does that same colour palette that helps you with the emotions, and I just think it's so incredible. And for me, that's probably one of my favourite types of like film to watch. I just love that vibe. And then finally, although to be honest it's probably not final, I'm probably sure I'll find plenty more things to say about it throughout this vlog, but for now the final thing I'll talk about is just the fact that I think the way that they didn't necessarily overuse music in this TV adaptation and gave a lot of time for basically like dead air. You got a lot of like breathing noises and just like the silences in between conversations, I just think were so perfect, because the people in Normal People are not perfect characters, and they are sort of having awkward experiences and experiencing things that they don't really know how to process. And so I feel like obviously in a lot of TV shows the conversations are very scripted, and you kind of can tell that they're just like having conversations that wouldn't necessarily occur in that same way in real life, whereas I feel like Normal People really did convey those awkward silences and just moments of reflection that maybe in other TV adaptations or other films would get covered over with music, which is absolutely fine and works in those contexts. But I feel like with this one, giving that time for dead air and for those silences was just so impactful, and it just made it such an incredible experience. So basically, if you haven't read Normal People, get a copy because it is so good, and then find some way to watch the TV adaptation. Obviously if you're in the UK then you can watch it on BBC iPlayer, and I think everywhere else in the world might be getting it on Hulu, but I'm not 100% sure on that because obviously I just was able to watch it on BBC. But either way, please try and read and watch this because it is so incredible, and I just really think you won't regret it because it's just so good. But for now, I'm having to leave my lovely bubble of watching normal people and having the best time to go to the supermarket and do the weekly food shop, so wish me luck. Honestly can't believe how bloody cold it was in the queue at Tesco. I literally was freezing, and last week was like a heat wave, so I don't know what's going on with the weather. But the good news is I did find these oat milk lattes in my food shop, and they look really interesting, so I thought I'd give them a try. I actually do have like a milk frother, but I don't ever feel like I can make lattes and cappuccinos as good as the ones that you get in like cafes. So because obviously all the cafes are shut at the moment, I thought I would try out this one and see whether they're any good. So I'm going to do that now because I could really do with a coffee to warm me up. Expectation versus reality. Wow. Right, well, it doesn't quite look like what the box said. It looked like it was supposed to be like a super frothy latte, and that's clearly not the case, but I'm still going to try it because it might be really tasty, so. Nope, that is just a very average cup of coffee. Brilliant. I'm glad I spent my money on that. Okay, well now that I've got my extremely average cup of overpriced coffee, I think I'm finally going to start doing some reading, because I haven't done any reading for quite a few days, to be quite honest, because I was doing my yoga teacher training, so there was literally no extra time for reading, and then I've just been a little bit lazy, to say the least, so I'm finally going to start on 9th House, which I'm so excited for. So fingers crossed, I really love this one because I've got such high expectations. So we'll see what I think, and I will let you know what I think when I start reading it. That was really lovely weather for a bike ride. Okay, so please excuse the drowned rat hair. I just got back from a bike ride, which, as you can probably see from my clips that I took while we were out, it was very rainy, so I'm looking a little bit worse for wear. But I just got 2 Amazon packages delivered. Well, I'm assuming they're both for me. One of them has my name on it, so that one's definitely for me. The other one feels like a book, so I'm guessing it's for me, but it doesn't actually have anyone's name on it. So I thought I'd open them because I haven't ordered anything, so we'll see what we've got. It's always exciting to get a surprise Amazon package. So let's see what we've got. Ooh, I know who this one is from. So this one is Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World, which is from the lovely Molly from Mind of Molly, who is running her first ever readathon in June, which is called Detectathon, which I'm super excited to be taking part in, and I'm also going to be on a live show for that readathon as well later on in June. But the group book for that readathon is this, and she was so kind to send it over to me, so thank you so much, Molly. I'm really looking forward to reading this one in June, and I also just love the cover because it is so bright and colourful, which is just lovely. And then let's have a look at the other one, which I'm assuming is mine, like I said, but we don't actually have a name on it, so let's find out. Ooh! Okay, funnily enough, this one is from Molly as well. This one is called The One That Got Away by Simon Wood, which is a thriller that she started reading, or actually fully read the other day, and she said that it was incredible and it sounded really interesting because I think it's a thriller with a few different perspectives, and one of the perspectives is from a serial killer, which just sounds so interesting and something I definitely want to read. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one, hopefully very soon. So thank you so much, Molly, because I'm so excited to read both of these books. They both look incredible, so thank you so much, love you so much. And now I'm just going to basically sit here, drink my cup of tea and try and get warm, because even though that bike ride was really fun, I am now freezing cold and soaking wet. I feel like Thursday has gone really quickly, and that's probably because I've actually been busy today, which feels like the first time in ages that I felt like that. It actually isn't, it's only been a few days, but this week has just felt very slow, which has left me feeling a little bit unmotivated, and I think partially that is just down to the fact that we've been really lucky with the weather in lockdown so far. It's been sunny almost every single day, which has meant I've been spending a lot of time out in the garden, on walks, and just like not cooped up inside. But this week the weather, as you saw from our bike ride yesterday, has really turned, and it is now very gloomy and overcast and everything, which is fine because, you know, that's what has to happen when it's been dry for a while. The earth obviously needs a bit of rain, but it has left me feeling a little bit like less motivated and energetic this week. So by yesterday evening I was just feeling a little bit meh, but this morning I booked onto a yoga class via Zoom, obviously, with one of my favourite yoga teachers, and it was a super challenging class, but that just left me feeling so much more energetic and motivated and ready for the day. So I've actually had a really positive day today, and I feel like it's set me up again to feel a lot more energised. So today I actually filmed a new video, which I'm super excited about, for a series I'm going to be hopefully starting on the channel called Books and Baking, which, as you can probably guess from the title, is where I'll be doing some baking and talking about books. And I filmed the first one today, which will be going up I think next week at some point. I also had an amazing little Skype call with Emma, Carolyn, Lucy and Mary about some exciting things that we've got in the works. And just in general, I feel like I've been a lot busier today editing videos and doing all that kind of stuff, so I feel a lot more on it today, which is brilliant. However, that has meant I haven't done all that much reading of Ninth House yet. I am actually buddy reading this with the girls I just mentioned that I was on a Skype call with, but I just haven't really gotten that far into it yet. We aren't actually supposed to be starting this one until the 1st of May anyway, which is tomorrow, so I don't feel too bad that I've not gotten very far into it. But I am currently only about 50 pages in. The 50 pages that I have read have been very mysterious and intriguing, but obviously I don't really know too much about the plot just yet. However, tomorrow I don't really have all that many plans, so I'm hoping to get my way through quite a bit of this book tomorrow, and I will obviously keep you updated with all of my thoughts. Well, I'm having a very, very relaxing Friday morning, which is nice. I did start the day with yoga, and then since then I've pretty much just been watching some YouTube videos, doing a little bit of editing. I made a thumbnail, and then recently I just started reading Ninth House. I've now made it to page 75, so I haven't read a huge amount yet today, but I am hoping to. But I just thought I would quickly come and talk to you about the book, because I realise even though I've said that I'm reading it, I haven't really said much about the story, and I feel like it's one of those books where I don't quite know how much to say, because it's such a popular story and it was so hyped up when it was published last year. But equally, I didn't really know too much about this book, so I feel like I'll just give a brief synopsis. However, it is a book that is very, very hard to synopsize, if that is even a word, because it's so mysterious and I still don't entirely know what direction the plot is going to go in. So basically, in summary, we are following a main character called Alex, who has just recently started as a freshman at Yale University, and she is at Yale very specifically to become part of a secret society called Leith or Lathe. I'm not entirely sure how you'd pronounce it, but this entire book basically surrounds the existence of all of these Yale secret societies who are all involved in the paranormal, and in particular with trying to access life beyond the veil, and they basically are involved with ghosts who are referred to as greys within this universe. And then there's also the suggestion that the rituals that are performed by these societies can be used to basically alter reality, fix elections or change results, alter the stock markets, all of those kinds of things. So they're considered to be very, very powerful. But Alex, as our main character, is quite unusual because she doesn't necessarily fit into this world of Yale. She's not necessarily very academic, she's not from a privileged background, and she definitely doesn't necessarily understand the gravity of everything that's going on because it is such an alien concept to her. And so she's kind of a fish out of water, but she is extremely important because she is someone who can access the ability to see the greys, the ghosts, without having to take any form of drug, which is what most people have to do to access it. So she's considered to be very unique and very, very powerful, but she doesn't really know how to harness her power or what exactly she's supposed to be doing. So that's kind of all we have read so far, and I really don't know in what direction the book is going to go in because it's very mysterious and it very much feels like you're being like drip fed the plot, because it definitely sort of wants to keep that air of mystery alive, and it does also help you to get into the shoes of the protagonist because she also doesn't really understand what's going on, so you are kind of learning alongside her, which I think is really interesting. I did just come across a quote in the book which I thought was really nice, so I thought I'd just read that because it's not like a spoilery one. So it says, this is like Alex's introduction to the magic and the rituals that are going on in these societies, and it says that to watch them realise that they had not been lied to, that the world they'd been promised as children was not something that had to be abandoned, that there really was something lurking in the wood beneath the stairs, between the stars, that everything was full of mystery. And I just feel like that is such an excellent summary for my experience with this book so far, because it is so mysterious and it's just hinting constantly at all of the hidden things that people don't necessarily see, but that through these rituals or through people like Alex you can access. And I just think it's so interesting and I'm really enjoying it so far. So basically this is my main priority today because I want to really get into the story and start to see what direction it's going to go in. So it's currently Saturday afternoon and I actually feel like I've had a really productive day today, mostly just because we actually tidied the bedroom earlier, which was a much needed task because it was looking disgusting. And even though there's literally like the basic minimum of what I should be doing with my life, I always just feel like I've got my life way more together when the room is actually tidy, and I just feel like I can be way more productive. But aside from that, we've already been for our daily walk, done a little bit of food shopping, and that's pretty much it. So so for the rest of the day, I'm pretty much dedicating myself to Ninth House. I am now 250 pages into this book, or just over that, which is about halfway through. I think there's about 200 pages left, so I'm hoping to be able to finish this one today, and that is my main priority for the rest of this afternoon. But I am really enjoying it. It's an interesting one because I feel like I don't know where the book is going to go. I have no clue what the plot is going to do. I have a couple of like theories about various things that could come up, but I feel like there are so many layers of mystery woven into this story that I honestly just don't know where it could go, because there are just so many things that are all like equally interesting, but it's like unclear whether they're gonna all merge together or whether they're separate mysteries, because we've got basically, like as I said earlier, this mystery of all the secret societies, which to me as the reader and also Alex as our main character are very mysterious because it's an entirely new world that you're very unfamiliar with. We've also got this mystery of a missing person and then also a murder. And so all of those things together are making for a very dark, very intriguing and super mysterious story, but I honestly just have no clue where it's going to go. But I am really enjoying it, loving the writing style, and also just the way that like the book has got a few like excerpts from a textbook woven into it. And obviously it's a fictional textbook to go along with the fictional secret societies that Leigh Bardugo has created at Yale University for this book, but it feels a little bit to me like Carrie by Stephen King, which is written in the form of excerpts from various memoirs and textbooks about a particular event that the book focuses on. And whilst most of this book is written in just regular prose, I do think it's interesting to have those little bits of like textbook style information thrown in there, which just helps you contextualize it for you as a reader, but also just make it feel a little bit more real. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just planning to basically sit down and read this for the rest of the afternoon, so hopefully I'll be able to tell you that I finished it soon. But I am actually going to go and try and make I am going to make a cup of coffee. I'm pretty sure that's within my capabilities, but more specifically the coffee sachets that I got from Tesco the other day that I showed you, that were a massive disappointment because they did not froth up at all like they looked like they were going to do on the picture. I'm going to try and make one of them using my milk frother, just because I've bought them now so I don't want to waste them, but they are a bit disappointing on their own, so I'm going to try and make one using that and see if that's any better. So let's do it. Now that is what I'm talking about when I say I want a frothy coffee. Thank God for milk frothers. Alright, so it's now about 5:30, so it's pretty much time for dinner, and I am so hungry, especially because it's Saturday night, which means it is pizza night, which I'm so excited for. But first things first, I just thought I'd do a quick reading update. I'm now 325-ish pages into Ninth House, which means I've got just over 100 pages left until the end, and this book just keeps getting more and more interesting. I think obviously, as I said, the mystery is the best part of this book because it's the thing that keeps you hooked, and the way that you sort of get gentle, steady drips of information throughout the story just keeps you wanting to read more, which is obviously incredible, and that was clearly Leigh Bardugo's aim with writing this book, and I think she's executed it perfectly. But I think there's also some like really intriguing like subplots going on with this book, and I think the way that she's managed to weave together so many things is absolutely incredible. Obviously the secret societies and the paranormal are kind of the primary focus, but there's also a really interesting like focus with our main character on basically like a commentary about society and like I guess elitism, particularly because this book is set at an Ivy League college, but our main protagonist isn't from a background that you maybe typically would expect someone to be from in these secret societies and things like that. So it really does delve into and critique the way that society limits people based on their economic and social status. I think this book does an amazing job of showing the desperation and really horrific situations that people sometimes end up in, mainly focused around their economic status. And that's a really, really intriguing subplot this book is exploring, which I'm really finding quite interesting. So I'm absolutely loving this book, as you can probably tell. But like I said, it is dinner time, and I thought I would just show you what I'm going to have, because for the past few weeks I have been making homemade pizzas on Saturday night, but this week I was just feeling a little bit lazy, so I picked up this vegan pizza from Marks and Spencer's this morning, and this is probably the best vegan oven pizza I've ever tried, because I do think, no offense to anyone who eats gluten-free food, because obviously it is necessary for some people, but I think a lot of times vegan food is often sort of lumped in with gluten-free foods, and so a lot of the vegan oven pizzas are gluten-free, which means that the dough is a lot more like crispy, and it doesn't necessarily have like the same experience that you would have from like a standard pizza, whereas this one isn't gluten-free, so I think it just has like a much softer dough, and it's just so delicious. The vegan cheese is really nice, and in general it's so good, and it should have been £4, but because it goes out of date today it was reduced, which was incredible. So cheaper food always tastes better, I think, when you know that you could have paid more for it but you got it for a bargain. It just is so great. So I'm gonna have that, some curly fries, and I'm also gonna jazz up the pizza with some mushrooms and olives, I think, just to, you know, make it a bit more fun. But yeah, I'm gonna do that. While that's in the oven, I'll probably do a little bit more reading, and of course I'll let you know when I have any more thoughts. Okay, so it's now 9:30 and I just finished up reading Ninth House, which was incredible. All I'll say right now is that this was a 5-star read, but I am going to do a proper wrap up of all of my thoughts in the morning, partially because I'm a little bit tired and I feel like I just need to like sleep on it to get all of my thoughts together, because this book just had so much depth to it that I feel like if I try and talk about it now, I'll just make a massive muddle of all of my words, but mostly just because it is dark outside and this lighting is horribly yellow, so I'll just do it in the morning when there's better light and I've had a chance to think about all of my thoughts, because there are literally so many things I could say about this book. Morning guys, so like I said, I was gonna do the update this morning. It's now Sunday, just because I was tired last night and I just wanted to have time to think about all of my thoughts on Ninth House, because like I said, it was just such a like multi-layered and complex book, so I just didn't want to rush over my thoughts. So with that being said, I'm just gonna put this coffee down because it's burning my hand, and then I'll talk to you about the book. So obviously I've been reading this book for about a week now, and one thing I will say about this book is that it definitely felt like one that I couldn't fly through, because I felt like there was so much information that I needed to kind of like read it just in like smaller chunks. So I started this one on Tuesday and obviously finished on Saturday, so it didn't take me like a ridiculously long time or anything like that, but it definitely wasn't like a super quick read. But I did have the exact same experience with The Secret History the other week. I read that for the first time, absolutely loved it, but I did read that over the course of a few days just because it felt like there was so much information in there that I just didn't want to rush over it and miss anything, which is absolutely fine. I would just say this is definitely like the experience I had with both of those books, and in general I feel like there were definitely a lot of similarities between Ninth House and The Secret History, which was great because I loved The Secret History, so I was hoping I was going to really enjoy Ninth House as well. Obviously they are both dark academia books. The Secret History is one of the most well-known dark academias, and this is obviously one of the newest dark academia books, but they're both set in very prestigious New England colleges, and they're sort of focused around secret societies. The main difference, I would say, between both of these books is that The Secret History is much more based in reality, if that's I don't know if that's accurate, but it's definitely like a realism style book, whereas this one is obviously dark academia with roots in the paranormal. And so that is kind of like the main way that they differ, but I do think that in the way that they explore secret societies and create a mysterious vibe surrounding crime and all of the strange things that happen surrounding these secret societies and these eccentric professors and all of the things that people do to try and preserve the sort of sanctity of these societies, I think they create the very same like mysterious and dark vibes surrounding it. So whilst this one is definitely paranormal and secret history is not, I do think that they are very, very similar. So if you've read one and enjoyed it, I definitely recommend picking up the other one because they were both incredible reads. Now, more specifically on this book, obviously the one that I've just read, there were so many things I enjoyed about this book because it was just so interesting. Firstly, I think just the introduction of the Ancient Eight, who are the 8 societies at Yale who practice magic, and then of course this like overriding body called Leith, who are the ones who like basically monitor them and make sure that nothing terrible is happening. And then you start to understand the sort of corruptness that is manifesting inside of these societies and their relationship with Leith, and I think the way that that is introduced throughout this book is so interesting. And obviously, like I said earlier, I think because Alex comes to Yale as a complete outsider with no prior knowledge really of anything that's going on there, and then we as a reader obviously have no understanding of that either, I think you immediately create this like very like tight-knit relationship, I suppose, with the protagonist, because you are kind of experiencing things exactly through her eyes, which I think is so helpful for really generating that feeling of mystery, of darkness, and like a little bit of instability because you just don't know what to expect, which I think really, really added to the dark atmosphere from this book, which I obviously loved. And then another thing that I really liked about this book, but it's actually something that I've heard a few people critique it for, so it might be something that you either really enjoy like I did or absolutely despise, was that the fact that it had a dual timeline style narrative, which I absolutely love. Literally anytime a book has either like multiple narrative styles or like multiple timelines, I just love it because I think it is so useful for contextualization. And in this instance we had several chapters in the present tense, and then the other half of the chapters were in like the past, and they were kind of focusing on providing historical context about what had led the characters in the story up to the present moment. And for me, I think that was so helpful for providing that information that helped you to get a bigger picture and to really get a better understanding of everything that was going on. So I absolutely loved it. However, the reason some people have critiqued it is because it wasn't in a very clear pattern, and it wasn't necessarily like you could predict that you'd have one chapter in the present and one in the past. It could kind of dart around in a little bit of an unstable way, which I loved and thought was absolutely fine. For some people that was confusing, but for me I thought it really, really added to the story and the atmosphere, because by doing that in such an unstable way, I think again Leigh Bardugo was able to use the narrative style in order to convey how much of an unstable experience the protagonist was having and how confusing the situation was, and how she was having to constantly try and draw back on the past experiences she'd had in order to try and make sense of what was happening in the present. So I thought it was really, really helpful, but obviously some people don't like that narrative style, but I absolutely loved it, and I just thought it was so good and really, really added to the story. As I've already mentioned earlier, I think the way that this book dealt with several mysteries all at once, in terms of the mystery of the societies themselves, the mystery of a missing person, and also the mystery of a murder, and sort of converged those three plots together in, again, a very unstable and confusing way, which just built up so much mystery and tension that you really didn't know what was going to happen, which is so incredible, and I absolutely loved it. And then finally, what I think I said in a very, very uneloquent way yesterday was just that I liked that while the primary focus of this story was the mystery and the dark academia, I also liked how Leigh Bardugo had managed to weave in some social commentary and really delve into the way that elitism and sort of like social and economic prejudices play a role in these societies at Yale and just in these Ivy League and prestigious colleges in general. And I think that was a really, really effective way to weave that narrative in and explore it through our protagonist, who didn't necessarily come from that privileged background. And I think that she managed to weave that in and really do justice to exploring that element of the story, as well as all of the mysterious dark academia. So I really, really enjoyed that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. Oh, the one other thing is, so obviously, like I said, I've already compared this one to Secret History, which I loved. However, one thing that I didn't actually realise was that this book was part of a trilogy, I believe. It's definitely got at least one sequel coming, but I think it might be a trilogy, which is kind of annoying just because I was hoping to get a little bit more resolution at the end. There was quite a lot of resolution, but I just like was a little bit irritated, mainly because I am so bad at keeping up to trends that usually when I come to popular series they've already all been published, so I can just read them straight away. So it's nothing to do with the fact that it's actually going to be part of a series, because I feel like in the future that's going to be great because I enjoyed this one so much. So obviously having extra books in the series is only going to serve to be a good thing. However, I'm just so impatient that I hate waiting for things, and usually, like I said, I've come to things so late from when they were actually hyped up that the rest of the books in the series were already out, so it's very rare that I actually have to wait for series to be published. So that's the one thing I'm kind of like a little bit disappointed by, but really that's just another way to show that I did enjoy the book so much, because I wish I could read the sequel now. But I think that brings all of my thoughts on Ninth House to an end. Clearly I really enjoyed this one, so I hope you enjoyed hearing all of my thoughts on it, and I'd love to hear what you think of it as well. Obviously I also finished the OWLs this week, which was amazing, and I can't wait to take part in the Newts in August, although to be perfectly honest, I still have no career ideas about which wizarding career I'm going to be going for now, because I went on such a tangent with my TBR, so I guess I'll just have to wait till August and try and figure that out then. But yeah, that will bring this vlog to an end, so I hope you've enjoyed watching, hearing all of my thoughts on Ninth House, seeing all of my very average expensive coffee escapades, and yeah, just doing lots of reading and staying at home. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.